What's up, y'all? This is Brave, and I'm back for another review of Tyler Perry's Sistas. This is Season 6, Episode 14, and the episode is titled Something New. So, we start this episode off exactly where we left off, and that is with Zach bum-rushing the door to get into Heather's place. He's fighting old boy, and next thing you know, out of nowhere, here comes two of the guy's friends. They end up jumping Zach. Fatima is yelling to the top of her lungs, trying to get them to stop and get off of Zach. Next thing you know, she whips the gun out. She ends up shooting in the air, and that's when all the commotion stopped. The little boy, he comes out, you know what I'm saying? And Zach, he grabs his son up. Now, this is where I got confused, y'all. Because Fatima, she, turned into big boss out here. She tells these guys to, pull up their sleeves. She questions if they know who she is. And baby girl has time to make a whole phone call. Or whatever. And next thing you know, one of the guys, his phone starts to ring. I guess she put something in motion. I don't know. That whole part confused me, y'all. Because I was just I understand she has her connections with Madam or whatever. But, this did not add up to me. And I know that we love to, throw in this idea that Fatima, she is, a sweet girl, but then she also halfway mafioso. I just feel like it did not work in this scene for me. At least for me. I did not care for it. Especially considering while this guy is on the phone, you have these other two guys who are just there sitting there looking stupid. And she's over here asking a little boy, Michael, hey, do you want some ice cream? I'm like, what is going on? So we see them leave or whatever, and that nosy neighbor, she's still outside talking about was that a gunshot I heard? Lady, go in your house. Why are you even outside at this time of night? What was you doing? But nonetheless, they try to leave or whatever, and next thing you know, it's a bunch of guys start walking up they about to go into this apartment and go beat these men up. And I'm just so confused because Fatima, why don't you do all this boss stuff and you acting like you a part of the mob? Why you don't be doing that to Karen? I'm just saying, we all know that you don't care for Karen. Karen be trying to play with you. How come you don't boss up on her like this? Oh, but never mind, Karen's pregnant. Nonetheless, I'm just wondering, are these gang members? Are these dancers from the strip club that your cousin owned? Or are these the guys who be working on the houses? I'm just curious, Fatima. Alright, so let's just move on to Andy and this date. I feel like they're trying to make fetch happen, and I'm not really sure about this guy. Nonetheless, their date seems to be going a lot better than how it was going initially. She tells him that she has to go to work in the morning or whatever. And he's like, yeah, it's been about 3 hours. So Andy is about ready to go. And she's looking around for her friends, where are they at? Come to find out, of course, they're sitting with his friends. And I'm just how corny is all of this? But they decide that they are going to play a trick on their friends and pretend like they just had the worst day ever. Alright, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next scene because I'm okay, it's giving childish, but honestly, I can't even be mad right now because this is probably something that is considered fun for Andy. And we all know Andy hasn't had fun in a very long time. But let's go ahead and move on because we have Zach. He's in the car with Fatima and the baby. Well, he's not a baby, but he's a kid, Michael. And Zach, he wants to figure out what was that back there with all them guys showing up. And he ends up pulling over the car because Fatima was in the back seat, right, with Michael. And he's like, well, I want to pull over so you can get to the front seat. And I'm just sir, it's not it's that much difference between the back seat and the front seat, but I digress. So again, he's questioning her about what was that back there. And she has to let him know, listen, I don't like to call in favors from my family. However, those guys, they were actually a part of the same gang that my family runs. And the way they were acting, that's not how they're supposed to act. So I just had to, call in a favor. And Zacky's like, well, what are they going to do to them? Baby, once she said, the less we know, the better, I said, well, we don't know if they're going to be dead or not, but they might be beat up pretty badly. So they end up talking about how, unfortunately, Michael has been completely mistreated. They don't even know what this guy was doing to Michael. That's the first problem. Secondly, it sounds like Heather hasn't been taking good care of Michael. But like Zach keeps saying, luckily he's down with them. And my only thing is this. You technically kidnapped a child. So we shall see how this storyline really carries out. So Fatima has actually noticed the parallels between Michael's life and the way Zach said that he grew up. And of course, Zach, he doesn't want to talk about that. He just wants to focus on making sure that Michael is good. He's like, we're going to take him home, make sure he's fed, make sure he's clean and all of this stuff. And y'all know what my first thought was when he said that? Where Michael gonna sleep? Because the way your house is set up, you don't even have an extra bedroom for your child. Yeah, that's a problem. So Fatima, she actually brings up the fact that, Heather is probably going to flip out when she finds out that we actually took Michael. And according to Zach, he's going to have a conversation with her and he's going to handle it. I said, okay. Look at Zach finally trying to handle his problems on his own without Fatima. We'll see how long that lasts. But let's go ahead and go back to Andy. Her and old boy are over here pretending like they had the worst date ever. And honestly, they could have kept this. Because his acting was terrible. Andy's acting and pretending was terrible. I was over it. I'm like, I want both of y'all to go ahead and shut up and let your friends know that this is all a joke because y'all making this linger a way too long. So they finally let their friends in on their little joke, and this man says that he wants to see Andy the next day. And I'm like, why is it that in Tyler Perry world, once a guy is interested in the ladies, or at least in one of the ladies, we got to see them every damn episode. Like, once they are showing any type of interest to these women, we have to continuously see them every episode. Either they're calling, they're popping up, they're doing all this stuff. And I feel like this man is about to be doing the same thing. Like we've seen every other guy. I'm over it. Then on top of that, here comes Tony talking about some he want to see Danielle again. Nigga, you gonna see her at work. But also, you already know that she has a man. What are you trying to do here? And then we see the other friend, he over here trying to shoot his shot at Sabrina. And I'm just like, honestly, this whole thing is corny. Like, even the whole idea of, hey, we met a guy and his friends are going to date my friends. It's giving corny. Like, it's giving high school. And these people are so far grown from high school, okay? Now, the girls are trying to exit, they trying to leave or whatever, and here come these guys hounding them, and I'm just like, what is going on here? Because, again, old boy is trying to get at Sabrina, because she keeps telling him she got a lot going on, and then here goes Tony again, trying to get at Danny, and I'm like, sir, she has a man. I need for you to leave her alone. So, I think his name is Jordan, the guy who went out with Andy. Anyway, he basically suggested that he's going to cook or whatever, and the ladies can come over. That way, everybody can hang out together. Now, you have Andy basically saying she ain't going unless her friends go. But here's my thing. You also know that Danny has a man. So why does Danny need to show up for this? Make that make sense. Like, at this point, I'm giving a side eye to Sabrina as well as Andy, because she literally just sat there on Karen's couch with y'all and told y'all how she is now a girlfriend and she's really trying to give this a shot with Preston. Like, none of this is making any type of sense to me, but I'm gonna keep trying to watch this damn show. So the guys tried to say that, the ladies have been drinking, so they can't drive home, right? But it's like, but y'all were drinking too. So everybody was drinking. That means nobody should be driving home, right? Y'all, why did Baldy suggest that they go ahead and get on the bus? I said the bus. The public transportation bus? First of all, do you know who Andy Barnes is? She ain't trying to ride no bus, number one. Number two, why are we acting like car services don't exist? And number three, sir, are you broke? Because why did you just suggest that? Also, I don't know how Atlanta work, but why are y'all buses still running? It seems like it's hella late at night. Why are the buses still running? So the guys, they start to kind of like joke about how, Andy may be too bougie to ride the bus. And then also, I think one of them has said like, oh, it'll be so much fun on the bus. And I'm just trying to figure out, where is the fun in riding the bus? Like, unless you was Tyrese and you were about to start singing Sweet Lady because you saw a fine girl on the bus, I'm not understanding. There is nothing fun about the bus. And then on top of that, you guys, what annoyed me was the fact that they are acting like all these ladies live in the same area. And I'm just like, well, technically, if everybody has their own place, they probably don't live in the same area. So wouldn't that be multiple buses being taken? You know what? Let me just keep going. Because they really did irritate me with this joke of a storyline. Especially once they start joking about how, oh, do you drive a Rolls Royce or something? And actually, yeah, she does drive a Rolls Royce. And what threw me off is because the one guy who she went on a date with, he was supposed to be like this NFL player or whatever. And I'm just like, okay, so what kind of car do you have? And I'm not saying that he need to have a Rolls Royce. But like, sir, what are you driving? Because do you not have NFL money anymore? What's going on there? But nonetheless, I'm about to go ahead and move forward because they continue to talk about this bus and it completely drained me. Let's talk about Hayden. So Hayden is going through it. He's like Paula Deonda 2.0. He's sending messages and voicemails telling old girl that he miss her. Baby, you're doing way too much, okay? So after he leaves another message for this girl, in walks Gary. So, of course, Gary wants Hayden to get over to Mary. He wants him to go ahead, let this go, and move on with his life. But Hayden is hung up on this girl. Now, for some reason, Hayden is telling Gary that he knows that Andy is going on a date tonight and how Gary should have seen the little dress that she had on. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because baby girl changed her clothes at home. So I'm not understanding what you're talking about. Like, are you keeping tabs on Andy? Do you have a camera at her house? What are you talking about, Hayden? Nonetheless, they go back and forth about them both being desperate for the women that they are interested in. And honestly, I am so tired of seeing them have the same conversations over and over again. I honestly don't want to see Gary and Hayden anymore. Because the way their storyline fell flat with Robin, I don't need to see them. I really don't. But let's go ahead and move on. Karen. So, Karen ain't got no food in her house, okay? Those cabinets are empty and bare. And as she's trying to, like, figure out what she about to eat, Pam ends up calling her. And she tells her that she's going to go to the store, right? So Pam is like, well, why are you trying to go to the store so late? It's already, after 11. Why are you trying to go to the store? So, of course, Karen is like, well, I could go to the store. It's not that deep. It's only 11 o'clock. And Pam is like, okay, well, just have Aaron go for you. And we already know Karen wants no parts of Aaron anymore. Now, she does not go into detail and tell Pam, like, hey, I'm not messing around with Aaron anymore. She just says no to that idea. Now, let's really get to the reason why Pam is calling. Of course, she says that she's checking in on Karen, but she also has to let her know, like, girl, listen, my rent is about to be due, so I'm not going to have a paycheck or not. Karen tells her that she just paid her, and Pam is like, okay, but what about for the next 2 weeks? Like, yeah, you gave me my one check, but I should be having another one coming. So unfortunately for Pam, Karen ain't got the money. She can't afford to pay you. So Pam is like, well, I think I'm going to have to, look for another job or whatever. And at one point, I know that Karen mentioned to her that she should get on unemployment. Ma'am, first of all, unemployment pays you a fraction of what you would normally be making, okay? Pam, I think it's best for you to just go ahead and get you another job. And when Karen can afford to bring you back on, then you can come back to work for her if you choose to. Because it doesn't even make sense the way Karen did not logically think about how her business burning up was also going to affect her employees. But I guess maybe it's because she's the only one who technically gets a check from Karen, and everybody else probably has to pay like booth rent or whatever. I don't know. But now that I think about it, maybe some of their stuff might have got damaged too. So Karen would have to pay for that. Child, I don't know, because this is a whole made up storyline. We just gonna leave that there. So that was pretty much that. Let's go ahead and move on, because we got to get back to the bus pass shawties. Y'all, we have Phil. He's calling Sabrina special, and he's handing out his coat to her because it's cold outside. And then I look up, and I see Danny already has on old boy's coat. And I'm like, How are you already having his coat on your shoulders, Danny? Like, at this moment, Tyler, this is how you could have got a good scene. Preston should have pulled up on her right there so that way he can witness the foolishness with his own eyes. But no, that's not what we got. So the guys end up noticing like a flower shop or whatever. So they go over there so they can get the lady some type of flowers, right? Now, for me, these men are pouring it on thick. And what makes it worse is that they really out here walking around the streets of Atlanta as if this is New York City. I could not. But nonetheless, another thing that bothered me, y'all, was why did they come back with just one rose for each lady? I'm like, y'all couldn't afford a bouquet? Y'all grown. What is this little one rose gonna do? Again, giving high school. And also, what flower shop is open this late? Like, it's after 11 p.m. Wrap them flowers on up, lady. But nonetheless, we finally see them get on a bus, right? Baby, they don't even pay no fare. I'm like, Tyler, if you don't get this scene together, and then here's another thing. They weren't even at the bus stop. I'm like, so you was just gonna flag down the bus to pick y'all up there in a taxi? I digress. So we actually learned a little bit more about Andy. That was probably the best part of this entire bus stop scene for me. And that was because we got to learn some backstory on Andy growing up. Andy says that riding the bus actually reminds her of being a kid. You know, her mom used to put her on the bus or whatever, drop her off to school, and then her mom would rush back on the bus so that way she could go to her second job. So the guy, I think his name is Jordan, he basically was like, oh, okay, so you were raised by a single mother. And she's like, no, actually I was not. We learned that both of her parents, they worked extremely hard so that way they could provide for her. Her dad actually passed away, which is, I feel like all of this information we never knew about Andy. We learned that Jordan, he was also raised by both of his parents, and they're retired. Now, randomly, y'all, this man is like, well, I want to kiss you. And she's like, okay, well, I don't kiss on the first date. Y'all, when did Andy get those type of standards? Because we've been watching the show for how long? She done kissed everybody that she done went out with on a date. But I digress. So this goof troop of a man, he's like, okay, but what about after a third date, right? And then he tries to kiss her. Why did he further explain this? As well, you know, we've already kind of been on 3 dates because we've been to dinner, we've been on a walk, and on the bus. Nigga, if you don't cut it out, please stop where you're going with this. So then we get into the middle of the conversation with Danny and oh boy, I think his name is Tony. So I'm going to assume that she's told this man all the things that she's been through. Because like I said, we're coming in at the middle of the conversation. And she's like, oh wow, you really be listening to all my conversations. And then his response was, yeah, all that stuff you've been saying on that phone, it's a lot. Sir, you're a certified ear hustler. And you're kind of a big problem. Because the fact that you know all this random stuff about this woman is giving creep. So I'm not understanding why Daniela, why is she entertaining this man at all? So he goes on to tell her that, he had to work up the nerve to tell her how he felt. And she's like, well, you haven't actually done that. My thing is, Danny, why are you sitting in this man's face? You over here flirting with him low key, and you have a whole man at your house. You want to play in the devil's playground so bad? Okay, I'm going to let you do that, and we going to see what happens if you going to choose this new man or if you going to choose Preston. Nonetheless, he ends up telling her that she's a 10, and he's out here handing out compliments left and right to Danny. And then he had the audacity to put the flower in her hair. And I'm over it, because I'm like, wait a second. Didn't old boy just put the flower in Andy's hair? I need for y'all to stop. Please stop. So Danielle finally tells him for the 5th time that, she's in a committed relationship. And he says, oh, well, it wasn't always like that. I'm sorry. At that point, I would not be able to have a conversation with him. Because like I said, he knows way too much about Danny's personal life. Absolutely too much. So at this point, I can't even lie though. I was trying to figure out who did Danny be on the phone with. Because it couldn't have been none of the sisters. The amount of information that he knows about this girl makes absolutely no sense. Because who was she calling all these times? I know she wasn't calling Andy to chit chat because they don't even have that type of relationship. I know she ain't been calling Karen to talk about her life because Karen got enough going on. Hell, Sabrina was in jail for most of the damn season. So who has she been on the phone with, y'all? So that way she can tell everybody her business and he can hear about it. All of this is giving creeper vibes. I'm sorry. This man, he knows, like I said, too much. And I'm not understanding how, Tyler is writing this so that way we're supposed to see that he's some type of good guy. Not at all. Now, y'all, this is where I really was completely thrown off by this entire scene. This man starts talking about some Coach Brown. And Tony is like, have you never heard of him? No, she hasn't. She didn't go to your high school or your college or wherever you met this man. Why would she know who Coach Brown is? Be for real. Now, this transitions into Phil talking about how Coach made them men. I'm sorry, but sir, we already saw Coach Carter. What else is going on? I don't care about nothing that you talking about, especially once he started listing off the things that the coach did, which was like, oh yeah, make sure that you respect black women. I'm like, what coach is saying that, number one? It should be all women, number one. Because I don't see a coach specifying only black women. But secondly, it was the part where it was like, oh, get good grades. I'm like, that's what a normal coach says. If y'all don't get up on my face with this. And then they start reciting a speech that this man supposedly said on his deathbed. Y'all, this date is draining me. It's draining me because it's lasting way too long and none of it is making sense. Now here comes the dumbest thing that I've seen with this whole thing. The bus driver kicked everybody off the bus in the middle of nowhere. Now, I'm judging all of these ladies. Sabrina, Danny as well as Andy, because y'all really let these guys finesse y'all into taking a bus to the middle of nowhere when y'all could have just called a ride share, or you could have rolled home in a Rolls Royce. How does that make sense? And what was weird to me is that these guys were still trying to hang out. It's late. Go home. Don't y'all have work in the morning? Y'all are not 20 years old. Y'all mid-30s. Chill out already. So then Andy's like, okay, well, I called a ride share. And honestly, my first thought was, okay, so are you going to ride to your car so that way you can drive it back home? Because it'll be really stupid for you to leave your fancy-ass Rolls Royce at some random restaurant or bar overnight. That's dumb, because you shouldn't have left it in the first place. Secondly, what threw me off is the fact that old boy was like, oh, so can all of us fit in this ride share? Nigga, you just unnecessarily put these women on public transportation that led them to the middle of nowhere. Like, if you don't get the fuck up out of here with that, and I know damn well all y'all don't live near each other. So again, who would be paying for a ride share that's going in 6 different directions? I'm sorry, but I'm with Andy. Y'all are 3 grown men. Find your way home. These men are giving corny for me, and I can't take it any longer. Then the audacity of the ladies to walk away so that way they can walk to the car or whatever. And they felt like the night went great. And they met some amazing men. I'm like, Tyler, what drug are you on? Because ain't no way you gonna tell me that's what they got out of this foolishness that they went through. And child, I guess we just gonna leave it up to Sistas universe. The Sistas universe never makes sense. Last scene of the night, y'all, we actually see Zach and Fatima. They're shopping for groceries, and of course they have Michael with them. And who do they happen to run into? Karen. Y'all, that was the end of the episode. Let me know what y'all thought about it. Were y'all as drained as I was when it came to this stupid ass bus date that these idiots went on? Y'all let me know. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe to my channel, and I will talk to y'all in my next review. Bye, guys.